the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon se, Malnadu TV India, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Organ Donation India Foundation, and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic, and our today's topic is a bit not only current, very, very relevant, and the topic is rural versus urban. The soul of India lives in the villages. This quote by Mahatma Gandhi could soon become a misnomer, as the latest United Nations report on population suggests that India's urban population will take over the rural population by the end of 2050. The report published by United Nations speculates the overall change in population in the coming century. In general, a rural area or a countryside is a geographical area that is located outside towns and cities. Typical rural areas have a low population density and small settlements. Agriculture area commonly comes under rural, as are other types of areas such as forest. Different countries have varying definitions of rural for statistical and administrative purpose. Rural areas are also known as the countryside or a village in India. It was a very low population density. In rural areas, agriculture is the chief source of livelihood, along with fishing, cottage industries, poultry, etc. The quest to discover the real rural India still continues in great earnest. Almost every economic agency today has a definition of rural India. Here are a few definitions. According to the Planning Commission, a town with a maximum population of 15,000 is considered rural in nature. In these areas, the panchayat makes all the decisions. There are 5 people in the panchayat. The National Sample Survey Organization, NSSO, defines rural as follows: an area with a population density of up to 400 per square kilometer. Villages with clear surveyed boundaries but no municipal board. A minimum of 75% of male working population involved in agriculture and allied activities. RBI defines rural areas as those areas with a population of less than 49,000 tier 3 to tier 6 cities. It is generally said that the rural areas house up to 70% of India's population. Rural India contributes a large chunk to India's GDP by way of agriculture, self-employment, services, constructions, etc. As per a strict measure used by National Sample Survey in its 63rd round called monthly per capita expenditure, rural expenditure accounts for 55% of total national monthly expenditure. The rural population currently accounts for 1/3 of the total Indian FMCG sales. An urban area or built-up area is a human settlement with a high population density and infrastructure of built environment. Urban areas are created through urbanization and are categorized by urban morphology as cities, towns, conurbation, or suburbs. In urbanism, the term contrasts to rural areas such as villages and hamlets. In urban sociology or urban anthropology, it contrasts with natural environment. The creation of early predecessors of urban areas during the urban revolution led to the creation of human civilization with modern urban planning, and which, along with other human activities such as exploitation of natural resource, led to a human impact on the environment. Agglomeration effects are in the list of the main consequences of increased rates of farm creation, since this is due to conditions created by a greater level of industrial activity in a given region. However, a favorable environment for human capital development would also be generated simultaneously. The world's urban population in 1950 of just 746 million has increased to 3.9 billion in the decades since. In 2009, the number of people living in urban areas, 3.42 billion, surpassed the number living in the rural areas, that is 3.41 billion. And since then, the world has become more urban than rural. This was the first time that the majority of the world's population lived in a city. In 2014, there were 7.2 billion people living on the planet, of which the global urban population comprised 3.9 billion. The Population Division of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs at that time predicted the urban population would grow to 6.4 billion by 2050, with 37% of that growth to come from three countries: China, India, and Nigeria. The United Nations publishes that data on cities, urban areas, and rural areas, but relies almost entirely on national definition of these areas. The Union principles and recommendations states that due to different characteristics of urban and rural areas across the globe, a global definition is not possible. Urban areas are created and further developed by the process of urbanization. Urban areas are measured for various purposes, including analyzing population density and urban sprawl. Unlike an urban area, a metropolitan area includes not only the urban area, but also satellite cities plus intervening rural land that is socio-economically connected to the urban core city, typically by employment ties through commuting, with the urban core city being the primary labor market. The concept of an urban area is used in economic statistics should not be confused with the concept of the urban area used in road safety statistics. The last concept is also known as built-up area and road safety. According to the definition by the Office for National Statistics, built-up areas are defined as land which is irreversibly urban in character, meaning that they are characteristics of a town or city. They include areas of built-up land with a minimum of 20 hectares, 2 lakh or 200,000 square meter or 49 acres. Any areas separated by less than 200 meters of non-urban space are linked to become a single built-up area. For the Census of India 2011, the definition of urban area is a place having a minimum population of 5,000 of density, 400 persons per square kilometer, that is 1,000 square meters, or higher than 75% plus of the male working population employed in non-agriculture activities. Places administered by a municipal corporation, cantonment board, or notified town area committee are automatically considered urban areas. The Census of India 2011 also defined the term urban agglomeration as an integrated urban area consisting of a core town together with its outgrowths, contiguous suburbs. India is broadly divided into two categories, namely rural and urban areas. This categorization is based on the standard of living and the per capita income of the people. As of 2018, more than 65% of India's population lives in rural areas. From 2008 to 2018, there has been a consistent decline in the percentage of the population, the majority of which is caused due to migration. Whereas more than 34% of India's population lives in urban areas. Although the total population in urban areas is less as compared to the rural areas, the population density is way higher than the rural areas. Industrial areas. There is a drastic difference between the population levels between rural and urban areas. Population living in rural areas is very low as compared to the urban areas due to lesser vehicles, lower population density, and lesser industries. Since there are more industries in the urban areas, it leads to releasing of more pollutants in the atmosphere as well as the water bodies. This is also a reason why the air quality index AQI is increasingly higher and higher, and consistently high levels of AQI indicates an increase in respiratory diseases. Infrastructure development is on the lower side as compared to urban areas, which leads to lower employment opportunities, which is also a major reason why people residing in rural areas opt to migrate to the cities in search for jobs. Urban areas have more development in terms of access to infrastructure and connectivity like hospitals, airports, railways, roads, etc. Source of income. Employment in the rural areas are limited to agriculture activities. Jobs in the urban areas revolve around manufacturing industry, service industry, along with trade and commerce. Discrimination. In rural areas, there is a lot of discrimination based on socio-economic status, gender, religion, caste, etc. Nowadays, many workshops and social awareness drives are being conducted to educate people about their rights and the right way to raise their voice against discrimination. In urban areas, the problem to social barriers is minimal, and no discrimination or very less discrimination is done on the basis of gender, religion, caste, etc. This gives equal access to everyone for education, job opportunities, etc. Standard of living. The standard of living is higher in the urban areas as the per capita income is higher than the rural areas. With access to better infrastructure and medical facilities as well as the educational facilities, the cost of living also increases exponentially as compared to the rural area. And to discuss this very, very important topic, rural versus urban, we have a very elite, experienced, those who are authority in these fields panelists with us. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and she is Miss Vinita Hariharan. Miss Vinita Hariharan is the Chief of Programs, Ministry of MSME, Government of India. Miss Vinita has had an illustrious academic journey and an exemplary professional and public life. An alumnus of the prestigious School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, she worked for a decade in leading private and public sectors of the country. At this juncture, driven by the aim of turning the head of a decision maker from an implementer, she pursued her mid-career master's in public administration from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, on a scholarship from the Singapore government. This proved to be a game changer as she gained wide international perspective in policy making. Post this, she has been with various multilateral and bilateral agencies with the Government of India, where she designed national policies and led the implementation of several flagship programs of Government of India in the domains of rural, urban, and livelihoods. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's urban mission, formalization of micro enterprises being some of the key flagship programs designed by her. She is currently with the Ministry of MSME as Chief of Programs, handling externally aided missions. Ms. Vinita is a public speaker and a thought leader in diverse issues of nation building. She is on the board of studies of leading global institutes and a mentor to social foundations that work towards empowering women and girl child. Ms. Vinita was recently given the Women of Excellence Award from the Indian Achievers Forum for her outstanding contribution to the field despite all hurdles. Welcome, Ms. Vinita Hariharan, on our show. Ms. Vinita, you have heard the report which I read about the rural and urban. And I also mentioned the discrimination and other plus and minus points of the rural and urban, because you are very closely associated with rural and urban, and you are seeing from the planning point of view and from the government point of view, as well as from those perspectives, because you have worked in, you have studied in the prestigious university in Singapore. So we would like to know your views on rural versus urban. Ms. Vinita Hariharan, please.
Thank you, Lal Goelji and Chandrasekhar Pranji for sharing the panel with us today. It's indeed an honor to share the panel with such esteemed speakers, and we hope that Dr. Anand Bose will also join us in a short while. So as always, Goelji, it's a pleasure to be in your show. So rural and urban is a theme which is very, very close to my experience and my heart also, I would say, because having qualified from the School of Planning and Architecture, which is basically focusing on urban planning. And then subsequently through my work, I've been working with the rural sector also quite a lot and on a very intense and large scale mission, which I'll talk about in the lecture today. So like you said, you had mentioned the various definitions of urban and rural. So today, the definition that is followed in India for demarcation by the administrative structures for rural versus urban is the census definition of minimum population. Urban area is defined actually as a minimum population of 5,000 and 75% and above of male working population engaged in non-agricultural work, and the density of at least 400 persons per square kilometer. So this is a definition which was set some time back. And so there is a discussion and debate on, or there is a move also to revise this entire definition of an urban area. And but besides that, having said that, the definition that's being followed today is still the census definition of an urban area, and rural area is all except this urban. So 1 minus urban is rural. So there's no actually a definition of a rural area per se in our administrative dictionary. So we start from there in terms of demarcating rural versus urban. So there is this definitions which the government of India has recognized, and they are trying to revise the entire definition itself. But having said that, rural areas constitute, like you said, just 68%, almost more than 70% of our population still reside in rural area, although the rate of growth of rural areas is diminishing, and urban areas, the urbanization is fast catching up. And like you mentioned, the UN UN report projections of more than 877 million by 2050. 2018 to 2050, the urban population size is projected to double. So while we have a fast growing urban India, we also have to recognize a predominant portion of our population still reside in rural areas by these definition of the census rural areas. But world over, the World Bank and other such multilateral agencies are prescribing or prophesizing the concept of a territorial development, which is going beyond urban, rural, very siloed kind of definitions, but looking at a territorial development, which is an integrated development of both rural and urban, which is actually what is the need of the hour. Like even in India, if you see today, most of our cities are pressurized, immensely pressurized, because of the huge migration that happens from rural to urban, as you mentioned, and most of it is distress migration. Natural migration we cannot curb because that's progress. As you progress, you have natural migration to better and bigger areas for greater opportunities. But distress migration, in search of jobs, in search of income earning opportunities, coming to the cities and then crowding the cities, and they are left out of the formal sector. They're left out of the frameworks of the city, and they are forced to live in very unhygienic settlements, which we call the slums. So that's how slum settlements have cropped up in India over a period of time in various cities. And our cities have not been able to cope up with the increasing migration. And there has also not been a enforcement of the planning that is like we've had city master plans, we've had planning for urban areas, and we've actually not had very structured spatial planning norms evolved for rural areas. Just only till recently, there was a thinking of a regional policy formulation guideline, which is called URDPFI, which Pranji would very well know about. It's about the urban and regional development policy formulation and implementation norms, which is looking at, again, a concept of a territorial development or a regional development. So they've evolved planning norms as to how much, what are the facilities that are required per capita for a certain population size, how many schools do we need, how many hospitals do we need. So this URDPFI looks at definition beyond urban and rural and looks at a settlement in toto, rather than looking at whether it's rural or urban. So, when we talk of this territorial development, taking that discussion further, as we see the cities crowded, now cities are not able to withstand this entire influx of population and the excess population pressures on it. Therefore, these, as a natural development, the population then shifts out of the cities towards peri-urban areas, which we call peri-urban, between rural and urban. And these peri-urban areas are actually sometimes they're administratively rural, but because of the census definition, but they're actually urban in character. So that's how this concept of a rural-urban concept has also come up in India and other parts of the world. So in this context, I would just like to talk about the mission which I was leading, which is the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee RU-Urban Mission. It's not the urban mission, but the urban mission, which we actually did this because we wanted to plan for these peri-urban areas, which is urban in character, but not really urban, but in rural and administratively. So, and also the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, what it did was actually to plan for rural areas and provide all amenities in rural areas so that to prevent this distress migration from coming to cities. So it's important that the viewers know that this kind of a mission has been conceptualized by the government of India, and I was privileged to lead this the conceptualization and implementation of this mission across India. So that what we did is we planned for clusters of growth, around 300 clusters of growth were identified in a very scientific manner based on certain parameters of demography, etc. And we planned that these clusters would be self-contained in terms of all amenities like health, be it solid waste management, all the infrastructure, basic amenities like water, solid waste management, etc. The roads, village roads, so that each of these clusters, at every household level, we looked at saturation of these clusters with reference to certain basic parameters, as well as social and digital and economic amenities for the entire cluster. So in this way, this mission picked up pace, and it is now, we have almost 300 clusters across the country, across around 30,000 Gram Panchayats. And all of these clusters are moving towards saturation of basic amenities as well as economic amenities. In each of those clusters, we identified one particular economic activity which would distinguish the cluster from the others. Like, for example, Odisha had various clusters which based on their economic theme, like a Makka cluster, a corn cluster, Haldi or Krishi Udyog cluster, which is based on Haldi was the main theme over there. So this kind of innovative mission, what it did was actually what it's trying to do still, it's an implementation phase. What it's trying to do is make the rural area self-contained so that the pressure on urban area reduces, and also people can have a holistic living in where they are born, and they don't really need to have distress migration coming out of their villages or their states to migrate to metropolitan cities or other states. So that was the idea of the National Urban Mission. So such kind of missions, I think, should be scaled up. And in the urban mission, what we also try to do was give some planning elements to each of these clusters and ensure that these clusters have spatial development in a certain manner, just as how cities have supposedly they have master plans, etc., which are not enforced very strictly. So which is why we have sprawl and unorganized development. So what we try to ensure was also that each of these clusters have planned development as per unique spatial planning norms. And we were also looking at having a urban, RURBAN, a urban administrative structure, something between rural and urban areas also. But that didn't go well because a lot of administrative, resistance was there from the rural administrative bodies in urban. They didn't want to break the or rock the boat, so to speak. They didn't want to go beyond what is actually happening already, which would, they thought it would create a lot of confusion. But there is a need for actually defining peri-urban areas also in our country. And another aspect that I would like to bring forth is that rural areas, many of them want to be administratively rural because most of the Government of India funds are going towards rural areas, which is rightly so. Like in this present day government also, we've had a huge thrust in rural areas, and always the budget allocation for rural is always double that of urban. Like if urban was 50 lakh crore this time, rural was more than 1 lakh odd crore. So always, administratively areas want to be defined as rural because they get more funds under rural areas. So while we say that our rural bodies, like in the present day government, there's a lot of empowerment happening to rural bodies also, like Chandrasekhar Pranji may speak about it perhaps, about how these local self bodies are being empowered to prepare their own Grama Panchayat development plans, etc. But the problem is that these local bodies don't have the capacity or the cadre of trained professionals. So that also, I think the Ministry of Panchayati Raj is working on providing these Gram Panchayats trained professionals to help them prepare plans for implementation and for utilizing the funds that are being devolved to these local bodies. A huge influx of funds now going into rural areas. So the Grama Panchayats are really overwhelmed and they're not able to really pick up pace and live up to the expectations or the additional responsibilities that come with the implementation of the 74th Amendment in letter and spirit. And at the same time, when we look at urban areas, we've had a very successful smart city mission, which looked at individual projects. It has been successful in coming up with more than 250 smart road projects, 415 projects nearing completion, and investments of more than 20,000 crore pouring into various projects in various cities. So while it is well, appreciated, and it is the only way out for urban areas today, because today our cities are already developed quite a lot. So greenfield planning is not possible. It's only brownfield interventions like the Smart City Mission, which is possible in today's context in Indian cities, and also looking at planning very new satellite cities. So the way forward is right, but at the same time, the government also needs to ensure that there is some amount of planning. There is some amount of plans that knit these individual projects that are being identified in various cities. There needs to be an overall strategy and a plan in place and a projection for future as to how the city is going to grow and all of that. So those spatial elements, spatial planning elements are being slightly overlooked today in the race for having this kind of soft brownfield interventions. So that's all that I would like to say. So while rural is being focused upon and urban is also being focused upon, but there is a need to balance and to marry the two together in a way that there is a settlement is looked at as a settlement and not really rural or urban, but look at the economic theme that a particular settlement represents and accordingly plans. So we need to have micro level plans as well as a larger state level as well as a national level plan to look at our entire planning systems in the country. So that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vinita Hariharan, for giving detailed views about the rural and urban areas. And what she says that the definition of urban is under the revision, and this planning is to revise the definition for the urban as well as the rural, so that there will be no problems or no differences between the different definitions which are existing right now. She has also mentioned about that city is not coping up with the fast increasing of population because of the migration, because those from the rural areas, those who are coming to the cities. So cities are not, although there are town plannings and everything is in place, but it cannot take the load whatsoever is coming. So lots of drastic actions are already in plan and they are being implemented. And she mentioned about that the clusters are being developed to make self-contained rural areas, so that they need not to migrate now and then to the urban areas. And she says even this present government is main emphasis is for the rural area, and that's why the budget of the rural area is double than the urban area. And if I'm not mistaken, she has quoted that if the 50,000 crores was the budget for urban, the rural area is about 1 lakh of crores. I'm sure that this figure has been quoted by Ms. Vinita Hariharan. So she's very clear. She says, although there are still lots of problems faced in the rural areas as well as the urban areas, but government is trying their best to see to it that the discrimination between rural and urban to go and whatsoever things can become, like she mentioned about this new satellite cities being developed, so that no need of going to the metros or to the big cities, and one can work there. So according to her, it's not easy to do all these things, but still lots of work has been done by the government, and they are doing it. The planning is there, everything is there, but only thing is it will take some more time, and once it will be done, she is very sure that the discrimination or the rural and the urban will go, and we will empower the rural as more, so that they need not to come to the city and to the urban area as they are coming right now. Thank you very much, Ms. Vinita Hariharan, for giving your detailed things for the rural and urban from the perspectives, because you are in the government, so you know what the government plans are. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran. Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran is born in a simple farmer family of a village, Pure Torai, district Pratapgarh in Uttar Pradesh. Beginning of social work in village from the early years of life, a long journey of social work from Jila Yuva Parishad 1978 to Rashtriya Yuva Parishad 1987. He participated in various types of movements and constructive work programs as an active worker of Chhatra Yuva Sangathan Vahini of JP Andolan during his studies at Allahabad University from 1974 to 78. From the year 1988, in the Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan, run by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, from the regional director to the national director, worked in various positions for 25 years. After taking voluntary retirement in the year 2013, again devoted to social work. With the implementation of new Panchayati Raj in the year 1995, Panch Parameshwar Melas were organized all over Uttar Pradesh. Formation and implementation of Panch Parameshwar Action Plan in 1996 in collaboration with the state government and UNICEF in about 12,500 Gram Panchayats of Uttar Pradesh. Between 1994 and 2000, he was involved in several committees formed by the state government for the implementation of Panchayati Raj in Uttar Pradesh. In late 1999, he led a 72 days Panch Parameshwar Yatra to 5 states, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab, to study and assess the ground situation of the new Panchayati Raj. In this journey of about 4,500 kilometers, discussions and dialogues with 462 Gram Sabhas and their findings and experiences were recorded. Comparative research work of 5 states, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, West Bengal, from Allahabad University on the topic role of Gram Panchayats in development and attitude and behavior changes of youth by taking a study leave from government services in 2002. So he has done that research also. Between 2005 and 2007, he was the Chief Nodal Officer of the Panchayat Yuva Shakti Abhiyan, a joint effort of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, and the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. In the present time, in the form of third government, Tisri Sarkar of the Panchayats in the country, conducting a public campaign for the institutional development. He is engaged in the work of public awareness and advocacy at the national level to make the form of self-government, Apni Sarkar, dynamic and effective in the true sense given to the panchayats by the 73rd constitutional amendment. Till now, the following books have been written by Dr. Pran on the Panchayati Raj system of the country. Panch Parmeshwar in 1995, Panchayat Kal Aaj aur Kal in 1997, Panchayat aur Gaon Samaj पुनर्जागरण की राह in 2001, स्वशासन बनाम स्वराज्य 2010, विकास लोकतंत्र और पंचायत एक समन्वित दृष्टि in 2013, तीसरी सरकार in 2015, अपनी गांव सरकार 2018, जम्मू कश्मीर में पंचायती राज व्यवस्था अपनी गांव सरकार, गांव समाज का पुनर्जागरण in 2020, पंचायत की यात्रा संस्कृति से संविधान तक in 2020, नया पंचायती राज अंतराल और विसंगति in 2020, आत्मनिर्भर गांव का पुनर्जागरण ग्राम स्वराज्य ही विकल्प in 2020. So he has written so many books on Panchayati Raj, and I welcome Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran on our show. Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran, you have heard what Miss Vinita Hariharan has mentioned. उन्होंने जो बताया, मिस विनीता हरिहरन जी ने काफी कुछ डिटेल में बताया कि आज की प्रेजेंट सरकार क्या क्या ठोस कदम उठा रही है ग्रामीण क्षेत्र को के पुनरुत्थान के लिए, और उसमें उन्होंने रूरल एरिया पे जो गवर्नमेंट का बजट बताया कि वो बिल्कुल डबल है अर्बन एरिया से। तो जो एक लोगों का काफी माना जाता है, एक दिमाग में एक परसेप्शन है कि सरकार सिर्फ शहर वालों के लिए, शहरी क्षेत्र के लिए काम करती है। अकॉर्डिंग टू विनीता हरिहरन जी ऐसा नहीं है, सरकार ग्रामीण क्षेत्र के लिए भी बहुत कार्य कर रही है और उसने डबल बजट भी रखा हुआ है। तो जब और बाकी बातें भी आपने बड़ी विस्तार में बताई। अब आप क्योंकि पूरी तरह से आप ग्रामीण अंचलों से जुड़े हुए हैं और खासकर आप नेहरू युवा केंद्र से और उसके बाद पंचायती राज से आपने बहुत कार्य किया है। तो अब हम आपसे जानना चाहेंगे कि वास्तविकता क्या है, धरातलीय वास्तविकता क्या है, क्योंकि सरकार जो पैसा खर्च कर रही है या सरकार जो प्लानिंग करती है, क्या वो वास्तव में ग्रामीण अंचलों को उसका फायदा हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है, क्या ग्रामीण अंचलों तक वो पैसा पहुंचता है नहीं पहुंचता है। आपसे ज्यादा इस बारे में जानना औरों के लिए थोड़ा मुश्किल है, क्योंकि आप धरती से जुड़े हुए ग्रामीण व्यक्ति हैं। तो अब मैं चाहूंगा आपसे आपके विचार रूरल वर्सेस अर्बन। डॉक्टर चंद्रशेखर प्राण प्लीज।
धन्यवाद लाल साहब, विनीता जी और सभी साथी। निश्चित रूप से एल गोयल साहब ने बड़े विस्तार के साथ क्या स्थितियां हैं आंकड़ों में शहर और गांव के बीच की, वो उन्होंने बहुत विस्तार से उसको बताया। विनीता जी ने उसमें जोड़ा कि सरकार की नीतियां क्या हैं और सरकार, भारत सरकार विशेष करके इस दिशा में क्या क्या प्रयास कर रही है और आगे करने जा रही है। सरकार का बजट भी लगभग दुगुना है, उन्होंने बताया जैसा कि वो लगभग 2 गुना है ग्रामीण क्षेत्र का। ये भी पिछली चर्चा, आप सबकी चर्चा में आया कि धीरे धीरे वो स्थिति आ रही है जब शहरी आबादी ज्यादा हो जाएगी और ग्रामीण आबादी कम रह जाएगी। जिस तरह से गांव से शहर की तरफ पलायन हो रहा है वो इसी बात का संकेत कर रहा है। बहुत सारी इस तरह की स्थितियां हैं और निश्चित रूप से इन सारे आंकड़ों के बीच में और आगे की जो सरकार की योजनाएं हैं उन सब के को दृष्टि में रखते हुए कुछ चीजें हैं जो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हैं और जिन पर चर्चा करना बहुत आवश्यक है और शायद लोगों के लिए सोचने का भी ये समय है कि लंबे समय से ग्रामीण विकास के लिए योजनाएं चल रही है सभी समय में। ठीक है, इस समय कुछ विशेष प्रयास चल रहा है, लेकिन जो परिवर्तन होना चाहिए था वो ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में दिखाई नहीं पड़ रहा है। ग्रामीण क्षेत्र के प्रति कोई आकर्षण नहीं बन रहा है, गांव के प्रति कोई लोगों में आकर्षण नहीं आ रहा है और पलायन की गति निरंतर तेज होती जा रही है। अभी आपने कोरोना के पीरियड में देखा कि उसका दुष्परिणाम क्या रहा कोरोना शहरी क्षेत्रों में, और उसके बाद किस तरह एक बहुत बड़ी जमात गांव की तरफ लौटी है और एक बार गांव की महत्ता और अपनी जमीन की वास्तविकता ये सबके समझ में धीरे धीरे आना शुरू हुआ है। शायद एक नए तरह के बदलाव की ओर हम बढ़ रहे हैं और यही वजह है कि देश के प्रधानमंत्री जो इस समय हैं नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने दो बड़े महत्वपूर्ण नारे दिए। एक तो स्थानीयता का दिया जो लोकल और ग्लोबल का दिया, और दूसरा गांव की आत्मनिर्भरता का दिया, और माना कि जब गांव आत्मनिर्भर बनेगा तभी देश आत्मनिर्भर बनेगा। हम सब जानते हैं कि महात्मा गांधी का तो यही सपना था ना। महात्मा गांधी ने तो पूरी की पूरी आजादी की लड़ाई का जो अंतिम लक्ष्य तय किया वो ग्राम स्वराज्य तय किया। 1909 में हिंद स्वराज्य से जो उनकी विचार की भारत की यात्रा शुरू हुई और 1915 में आने के बाद और जब पूरे देश का उन्होंने भ्रमण किया और उसके बाद 1942 का जब मूवमेंट शुरू हुआ तो 1942 में पहली बार उन्होंने, अभी 9 अगस्त कल ही था, 9 अगस्त 1942 को जब शुरू हुआ तो पहली बार गांधी ने 1942 में इस चीज को परिभाषित किया कि ग्राम स्वराज्य की बात की और ग्राम स्वराज्य की परिभाषा दी कि एक पूर्ण लोकतंत्र जब गांव में होगा, और इतना ही उन्होंने उसको परिभाषित किया 1942 में जब लगा देश आजाद होने लगेगा। और दूसरी चीज महत्वपूर्ण बात ये थी, लुई फिशर का नाम सुना है, लुई फिशर के साथ भी उनका जो संवाद हुआ वो 1942 का ही संवाद है। सुना है कि वर्धा में लुई फिशर लंबे समय तक उनके साथ रहे, गांधी के साथ हफ्तों रहे, और उन्होंने गांधी से एक सवाल पूछा टहलते टहलते कि बापू ये बताइए देश आजाद हो जाएगा तो आप क्या करेंगे, क्या सोचते हैं। तो उन्होंने कहा कि मैं इस देश की सत्ता को, अगर देश आजाद हुआ तो देश को सत्ता मिली, भारतीयों को सत्ता मिली तो उसे मैं 7 लाख गांव में बिखेरना चाहूंगा उस सत्ता को, और वो सत्ता जब गांव तक बिखरेगी तभी जाकर के भारत का पुनर्निर्माण होगा या भारत को फिर से वो गौरव प्राप्त हो सकेगा जो था। क्योंकि उन्होंने भारत के उस गौरव का एक तरह से दिग्दर्शन किया था, गांव में जा करके देखा था कि भारत के गांव की क्या सामर्थ्य थी। अभी आपको याद हो कि जब अपने देश के प्राइम मिनिस्टर गए थे चाइना और चाइना के राष्ट्रपति दोनों की जब ज्वाइंट प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई थी, याद हो, उस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में एक चीज निकल करके आई थी कि दुनिया के 2000 वर्ष ऐसे थे जो चाइना और भारत ये दोनों मिलकर के दुनिया की पूरी संपदा का 59% इनके पास होता था। मतलब ये 2000 वर्ष ऐसे थे, अर्थात वो समय था जो संपन्नता का, समृद्धि का भारत का, जो जब गांव ज्यादा हो, गांव में ही वो चीजें होती थी, शहर तो गिने चुने होते थे। गांधी ने उस तथ्य को समझा था और उस तथ्य को धीरे धीरे आजादी के बाद देश की सरकारों ने भी समझना शुरू किया और उस चीज को आगे ले गए। वास्तव में जिस तरह से अभी आंकड़े सरकार की तरफ है वो बहुत अच्छे आंकड़े हैं, लेकिन मुझे एक चीज और याद आ रहा है, 1989 का वो समय जब इस देश के प्रधानमंत्री राजीव गांधी हुआ करते थे, तो राजीव गांधी ने ही पंचायती राज का, नए पंचायती राज का वो रखा था और पार्लियामेंट में उनके भाषण जो हुए थे बड़े महत्वपूर्ण थे। मैं सिर्फ 2 का रेफरेंस देना चाहूंगा। एक तो उन्होंने बहुत बातें जो उन्होंने अपने कही थी कि जिसको बड़ा कॉमन है ना, कि जो अभी कह रहे थे कि सच्चाई क्या है, कि 100 रुपया दिल्ली से चलता है तो गांव कितना पहुंचता है, बड़ा कॉमन था बहुत। आज भी लोग उसका उदाहरण देते हैं, वो कहते थे 1 रुपया चलता है तो 15 पैसा गांव पहुंचता है। और ये पहुंचने की जो स्थिति थी ना, इसमें वो करप्शन की बात उतनी ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण नहीं थी, उसकी चर्चा भी नहीं। वो कहते थे कि जो हमने सिस्टम का एक, जिसको कह लीजिए सिस्टम का हाथी खड़ा कर रखा है, उसके ऊपर इतना खर्चा होता है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कास्ट इतनी ज्यादा आ जाती है कि गांव तक पहुंचते पहुंचते वो 15 पैसा रह जाता है। लीकेज होते हैं, लीकेज की बात उतने बड़े पैमाने पर नहीं की। दूसरा उन्होंने जो महत्वपूर्ण बात कही थी वो राज्यसभा में कही थी, जब दोनों विधेयकों को, नगर पालिका बिल को प्रस्तुत कर रहे थे और ग्राम पंचायत बिल को प्रस्तुत किया था जब राज्यसभा में, तो बहुत साफ कहा था। वो कहते थे मैं ये सोचता था कि कोई एक और खिड़की बना दी जाए जहां सारी चीजें सुविधाओं की जाने लगे, उससे समस्याएं समाधान हो जाएंगी। कुछ प्रशासनिक सुधार कर दिया जाए, उससे शायद डेवलपमेंट हो जाएगा। कुछ और नई योजनाएं शुरू कर दी जाए, उससे डेवलपमेंट हो जाएगा। उन्होंने कहा नहीं, मुझे लगता है ये सारी चीजें अधूरी थी। पार्लियामेंट में कहा है उन्होंने, जब तक हम लोगों के हाथ में निर्णय का अधिकार नहीं देंगे, विशेषकर उन लोगों के लिए जिनके लिए हम डेवलपमेंट प्लान बना रहे हैं, डेवलपमेंट की योजना बना रहे हैं। और जब तक ग्रास रूट लेवल की लीडरशिप नहीं खड़ी होती, ठीक तरह से जमीनी स्तर के नेतृत्व नहीं खड़े होते, और उन नेतृत्व के हाथों में जब तक लीडरशिप नहीं आती, तब तक डेवलपमेंट के लिए 10 खिड़कियां आप खोल दीजिए, 10 तरह के नए प्लान चला दीजिए, वो कहीं पर जाकर के गांव की दशा को बदला नहीं जा सकता। ये उन्होंने पार्लियामेंट में और कहा। इसी सच्चाई को, जो मेरे भ्रम थे, जो मुझे प्रशासन में बताया गया था सरकार में आने के बाद, उनका कहना था ये सारी चीजें मुझे बताई गई थी, ये कर दिया जाएगा तो देश में खुशहाली आ जाएगी। लेकिन आज जो मुझे समझ में आ रहा है, वो आ रहा है कि जब तक हम लोगों को निर्णय का अधिकार नहीं देंगे, जब तक ग्रास रूट की चुनी हुई लीडरशिप के हाथ में ये व्यवस्था नहीं आएगी, तब तक सिर्फ ऊपर की लीडरशिप से काम नहीं चलेगा और न तो प्रशासनिक अधिकारियों से ये काम चलेगा। ये बहुत ही उन्होंने बहुत उस तरीके से और आज उसी चीजों को, आज भी जो चीजें धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ रही हैं, वो उसी दिशा की ओर आगे जा रही है। निश्चित रूप से आज की तारीख में जो हम देख रहे हैं कि हम कब तक गांव के पलायन को, इसे तो रोकना होगा ना कहीं इसे तो रोकना होगा। ये जो बढ़ रहा है शहरों का, जो अब ठीक है वो आंकड़े आ रहे हैं कि अगर इसी तरह की आबादी बढ़ती रही और यही रहा, पलायन की स्थिति यही रही, तो एक ना एक दिन, जैसे कहा जा रहा है कि शहरी आबादी बहुत ज्यादा हो जाएगी और ग्रामीण आबादी कम हो जाएगी। गांव का भूगोल बहुत बड़ा है और शहरों का है। इसके लिए ठीक है, नए तरह की प्लानिंग हो रही है, नए तरह की योजनाएं बन रही कि कैसे शहरों को, शहरी आबादी को या शहरी ढांचे को हम शिफ्ट करें गांव नीचे की तरफ, और हम जाके कस्बों को कैसे छोटे छोटे शहरों में विकसित कर सके। ये सारी चीजें हो रही हैं। लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं जो आज की तारीख में जो गांव हैं, उन गांव के अंदर ढांचागत जो सुविधाएं हैं, उनकी जो जरूरत है उसको ध्यान में रखते हुए, और जिस तरह से कहा जा रहा है कि क्या जो चीजें बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण थी कि जो संचार व्यवस्था है, जो ढांचागत सुविधाएं जो बढ़ रही हैं, मुख्य रूप से शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और रोजगार, ये जो 3 चीजें हैं, अगर इस तरह विशेष रूप से अगर ध्यान ना दिया गया तो ठीक है, शहर की आबादी बढ़ेगी और उसके परिणाम क्या होते हैं शायद उसका एक तरह से हम लोगों ने देख लिया है, थोड़ा सा रिहर्सल उसका मिल चुका है। आगे वो और भी गहरा हो सकता है और भी खतरनाक हो सकता है। मैं सिर्फ 2-3 चीजों की तरफ जो आपका ध्यान आकृष्ट करना चाहता हूं, जो यहाँ है, जो नीति नियंता है, जो ये सारी चीजें बना रहे हैं। निश्चित रूप से इस समय दिशा बहुत सही चल रही है। मैं ये मानता हूं कि डेवलपमेंट की दिशा एक ठीक चल रही है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं वो भटकाव कभी कभी उसमें भी जबरदस्त आ रहा है। इसलिए उस पर ध्यान देने की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है। और सिर्फ बार बार कह रहा हूं कि जब तक हम सिस्टम में उस चीज का बदलाव नहीं करेंगे, मोटे तौर से जिस तरह के सिस्टम की आवश्यकता है इस समय, और जिसको हम कहते हैं सत्ता का विकेंद्रीकरण, उस विकेंद्रीकरण को लेकर, सही अर्थों में विकेंद्रीकरण को हम नीचे नहीं ले जाएंगे। और विकेंद्रीकरण का मतलब होता है निर्णय लेने का अधिकार, जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण होता है। आज हम जब कहते हैं कि सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट के रूप में पंचायत और नगर पालिका को खड़ा किया गया है, तो सही अर्थों में उसे सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट के रूप में स्थापित करना चाहिए। आज तक किसी को सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट की परिभाषा नहीं पता है, परिभाषित किया भी नहीं गया। डिक्शनरी में भी ढूंढ लीजिए, आपको सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट की कोई अलग से परिभाषा नहीं मिलेगी। 73वें और 74वें संविधान संशोधन में भी सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को ठीक से परिभाषित नहीं किया गया। परिणाम क्या है? सब अपने अपने तरीके से सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को परिभाषित कर रहे हैं। भारत सरकार जिस नजरिए से सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को देखती है, इस शब्द को देखती है, उसी नजरिए से राज्य सरकारें सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट शब्दों को नहीं देख रही हैं। इसे परिभाषित करना पड़ेगा। परिभाषा ना होने के कारण कभी हम इसे स्वशासन कह देते हैं, सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को स्व सरकार कह, इवन संविधान में इसको स्वायत्त शासन करके हिंदी में कहा गया है। वो सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट की हिंदी स्वायत्त शासन हो ही नहीं सकती। तो सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को परिभाषित करना और उस परिभाषा के साथ सही अर्थों में जो संविधान कह रहा है कि शहरों और गांवों में सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट को स्थापित किया जा सके, सेल्फ गवर्नमेंट की स्थापना की जिम्मेदारी राज्य सरकारों को जो दी गई है उसे, आप जो स्मार्ट सिटी की हम बात करते हैं, दुनिया के आप विभिन्न देशों का इतिहास उठा के देखिए, वो प्रोसेस देखिए, जहां स्मार्ट सिटीज बनी है वो वही बनी है जहां नगर पालिकाओं का, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी का मेजर रोल रहा है और जहां पर म्यूनिसिपैलिटी को मेजर पावर दिया गया है। आज तो म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज के पास पावर ही नहीं है, उसको कैसे दिया जा सके इस पर विचार करने की आवश्यकता है। ठीक वही स्थिति ग्राम पंचायतों की है केरल और मैंने तो देखा ही कि मैंने बहुत सारे राज्यों का तुलनात्मक अध्ययन किया है, बहुत सारे राज्यों में खुद गया हूं, पैदल चल के, साइकिल से चलकर, गांव वालों के साथ मीटिंग करके पिछले लगभग 25-30 साल इसी में लगाया हूं, इसी बात के लिए अध्ययन करने के लिए कि क्या वो स्थितियां होंगी जिससे इन चीजों को बदला जा सकता है। आज की तारीख में यह सही है कि भारत सरकार के स्तर से और पंचायती राज मंत्रालय के स्तर से ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों के विकास के लिए दो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कार्यक्रम चलाए जा रहे हैं। पहला है, जिसकी बात आप विनीता ने जी, क्लस्टर डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम जो शुरू हुआ है, अभी बिल्कुल तत्काल शुरू हुआ है, और एनआईआरडी ने सबसे पहले इसका प्रयोग किया था। कुछ क्लस्टर में, लगभग 20 क्लस्टर में इस कार्यक्रम को चलाया था, और फिर सेक्रेटरी पंचायती राज के साथ और मिनिस्टर के साथ उनकी जब लंबी बातचीत हुई थी, मैं कहीं ना कहीं इस पूरे प्लानिंग का एक हिस्सा था, जो क्लस्टर डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम का पहले दिन से इसमें जुड़ा हुआ था एनआईआरडी के साथ। तो उसके बाद भारत सरकार को निश्चित रूप से इसको बहुत पसंद आया, और उसके बाद उन्होंने एक विस्तार किया है। लगभग 200 क्लस्टर डेवलपमेंट के प्रोग्राम इस समय शुरू किए गए हैं, अर्थात लगभग 1000 ग्राम पंचायतों में बड़ी तेजी के 260 है, तो इस तरह 1000 से ज्यादा ग्राम पंचायतों में ये प्रयोग शुरू हो चुका है। एक तरफ ये है, निश्चित रूप से उसमें बहुत सारी संभावनाएं उसके साथ जुड़ी हैं। दूसरा ये है जो ग्राम पंचायत विकास योजना की चर्चा हुई, जो 14वें वित्त आयोग से मुख्य रूप से निकल करके आई, जो ये आया कि हर गांव का 5 ईयर का प्लान बनेगा, और उसके लिए पहली बार बड़े स्तर पर अनटाइड फंड जो है वो ग्राम पंचायतों को दिया गया, सीधे ग्राम पंचायतों को दिया गया, और इस बात की उसके अंदर प्रावधान किए गए कि गांव के लोग अपनी जरूरतें, जो मैं शुरू से कह रहा था, चाहे वो महात्मा गांधी ने कहा हो, पंडित नेहरू ने जो अनुभव किया हो, सामुदायिक विकास कार्यक्रम जैसा इतना बड़ा प्रोग्राम चला आजादी के बाद, डेवलपमेंट का ही प्रोग्राम था, कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम, जिससे आज सारे ये डेवलपमेंट के सारे स्ट्रक्चर जो खड़े हुए हैं संस्थागत, चाहे वो ब्लॉक ऑफिस हो या डिस्ट्रिक्ट डेवलपमेंट ऑफिस हो या जिला पर, ये सारा कुछ उसी से निकल करके आया था। और उसका रिजल्ट क्या आया था? पंडित नेहरू ने जब 4 साल बाद उसकी समीक्षा शुरू की थी, तो यही तो समझ में आया था कि लोगों की भागीदारी का सबसे बड़ा अभाव है, इसमें सहभागिता हो ही नहीं पाई, और इसीलिए सामुदायिक विकास कार्यक्रम को जो लक्ष्य प्राप्त करने थे वो लक्ष्य नहीं प्राप्त किए जा सके। और उसी दिन उनको समझ में आया था पहली बार कि जब तक पंचायती राज व्यवस्था को ठीक से नहीं खड़ा किया जाएगा, तब तक इस देश के डेवलपमेंट को हम सही दिशा में नहीं ले जा सकते। और बलवंत राय मेहता कमेटी बनाना और ये सारा काम उसके बाद शुरू हुआ था। राजीव गांधी का उदाहरण मैंने दिया। नरेंद्र मोदी जी जब वो थे मुख्यमंत्री गुजरात के थे, उठाकर उनके इतिहास, उनके समय को देखिए कि उन्होंने पंचायतों को लेकर के कितने बड़े नए नए प्रयोग किए हैं। समरस गांव बनाने का प्रयोग, पवित्र गांव बनाने का प्रयोग, पावन गांव बनाने का, तीर्थ गांव बनाने का प्रयोग, ये बहुत बड़े पैमाने पर उन्होंने गुजरात में किया, जिसका मॉडल किसी रूप में दिखाया जाता है। और इतना ही नहीं है, बल्कि इन सारे चीजों के साथ आज की तारीख में अगर ये 2 प्रोग्राम चल रहे हैं और निर्णय लेने का अधिकार ग्राम पंचायत विकास योजना के माध्यम से पहली बार गांव को सरकार बनने की स्थिति जो दी जा रही है, तो अगर वहां जाकर के जिस तरह से लोग अपनी समस्याओं को खुद चिन्हित करने की बात है, गांव में चिन्हित करने के बाद ग्राम सभा के द्वारा ही उसे स्वीकृत किया जाएगा। जो ग्राम पंचायत प्लान बनाएगी उसे ग्राम सभा स्वीकृत करेगी, ग्राम सभा उसकी अंतिम अथॉरिटी होगी। ये गाइडलाइन है भारत सरकार की, और इसके आधार पर यह सही है कि बहुत बड़ी कोशिश हो रही है, लेकिन जमीन के स्तर पर अभी भी वो कोशिश बहुत कमजोर है, बहुत कमजोर है। अब पिछले 5 साल बीत चुके हैं, सहभागिता का जो लेवल है वो बहुत चिंता का विषय है, बहुत कमजोर विषय है। अभी दूसरा 15वीं पंचवर्षीय योजना का काम शुरू होने जा रहा, अभी भी ज्यादातर प्लान कागजों पर बनते हैं। कुछ अधिकारी बैठ करके, सरपंच और अधिकारी बैठकर सामान्यतः उन प्लानों को बना दे रहे हैं। लोगों की भागीदारी का प्रतिशत बहुत बड़े स्तर पर जागरूकता का, जैसा कि लाल साहब कह रहे थे कि वो जागरूकता का एक बड़े पैमाने पर कार्यक्रम, अवेयरनेस का चलाने की आवश्यकता है, और उसके लिए सरकार को विशेष रूप से इस बारे में सोचने की आवश्यकता है। दूसरा, एक और बाद में मैं महत्वपूर्ण बात कहना चाहूंगा कि आप खुद ही अभी जब मिस्टर गोयल जी ही उसको बार बार कह रहे थे कि जिस तरह का डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, उस डेवलपमेंट के चलते जो पर्यावरण को क्षति हो रही है, पर्यावरण जिस तरह से प्रभावित हो रहा है, और उसके जो परिणाम पूरी दुनिया में दिखाई पड़ रहे हैं, वो आने वाले समय में और भी घातक होंगे। आज के अखबारों में, आज की तारीख के अखबार में देख रहा था कि शायद जो हम ये मानते थे कि गर्मी का जो लेवल होगा, वो इतने साल, उससे कई वर्ष पहले अब गर्मी का लेवल बढ़ने जा रहा है। ऐसी स्थिति में मैं सिर्फ ध्यान दिलाऊंगा सरकार का भी और समाज का भी, दोनों लोगों का, कि जो एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट जिला योजना समिति का प्रावधान किया गया है 74वें संविधान संशोधन में। जब नगर पालिका एक्ट के अंतर्गत नगर पालिका का विधेयक प्रस्तुत किया जा रहा था, तो उसमें 74वें संविधान संशोधन में जिला योजना समिति का प्रावधान किया गया है। डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लानिंग कमेटी बाकायदा ये संवैधानिक संस्था है। जो प्लानिंग कमीशन पहले था वो संवैधानिक संस्था नहीं थी, लेकिन जिला योजना समिति एक संवैधानिक संस्था है। लेकिन जिला योजना समिति को भी ठीक से एक्टिवेट करना, सही दिशा में ले जाना, उसमें जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात है वो ये है कि प्लान पहले गांव पर बनेगा, गांव से ब्लॉक का प्लान बनेगा, ब्लॉक से जिला पंचायत का प्लान बनेगा, और दूसरा ठीक इसी समय वार्ड का प्लान बनेगा शहरी क्षेत्र में, और वार्ड के प्लान के बाद नगर पालिका का प्लान बनेगा, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी प्लान बनेगा, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी प्लान और डिस्ट्रिक्ट पंचायत प्लान को मिला करके जिला योजना का प्लान बनेगा, डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लान बनेगा। अर्थात और उसमें एक शर्त दी है, उस पूरे संविधान ने कहा है कि यह प्लान बनाते समय इस बात का विशेष रूप से ध्यान रखा जाएगा कि पर्यावरण की कहीं से क्षति ना हो। अर्थात पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा की गारंटी देते हुए ये प्लान बनना चाहिए। आप कल्पना करिए कि जो संविधान में जो ये तय किया गया है, और अगर आज इसकी तरफ किसी की नजर नहीं जा रही है, न इस तरह के इस प्रोसेस के साथ डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लान बन रहे हैं, अभी भी फिर वही हो रहा है। तो ये कुछ चीजें जो बार बार मैं फिर याद दिलाऊंगा कि जब तक लोगों की भागीदारी, ग्रास रूट लेवल की लीडरशिप की कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग और उसके आधार पर प्लानिंग में उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट, केरल में आज जो भी है, विनीता जी ज्यादा अच्छा जानती हैं कि केरल में 3 साल तक 73वें संविधान संशोधन के बाद और पंचायती राज लागू करने के बाद 3 साल तक लगातार प्लानिंग की ट्रेनिंग दी गई है लोगों को, कैंपेन चलाया गया है, मास कैंपेन चलाया गया है, तब जाकर वहां के डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्लान ठीक से बनने शुरू हुए थे। उसी तरह के प्लान पूरे इंडिया में चलाने की जरूरत है, ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों में भी और शहरी क्षेत्रों में तो उस तरह का कोई प्लान बन ही नहीं पा रहा है। जो 74वें संविधान संशोधन में जिन कमेटियों की, वार्ड कमेटियों की बात की गई है, वो वार्ड कमेटियां देश के अधिकांश राज्यों में नादारद हैं, कहीं भी कमेटियां बनाई ही नहीं गई राज्य सरकारों द्वारा। ऐसे में बहुत ज्यादा आवश्यकता है कि अगर सच में हम ग्रामीण क्षेत्र और शहरी क्षेत्र के अंतर को मिटाना चाहते हैं या सही अर्थों में ये पलायन रोकना चाहते हैं और एक जो समावेशी विकास की बात पूरे देश में हो रही है उसको जमीन पर उतारना चाहते हैं, तो इन सारी चीजों को इसके साथ जोड़ना पड़ेगा, इसके बिना ये संभव नहीं है। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर चंद्रशेखर प्राण जी आपका। एंड व्हाट डॉक्टर प्राण हैज सेड, आई विल जस्ट हाईलाइट फ्यू ऑफ थिंग्स। ही सेड दैट व्हेन लुई फिशर वाज spending his time with Mahatma Gandhi emphasized that until unless the power will not given to the villages, the rural area, it's not possible to enjoy the independence. And he says, if I will, my dream is that all the power should go to the villages. And he also mentioned about late Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. He says, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi mentioned two things. First thing, he says, when government spends 1 rupee, only 15 paisa reaches to the villages. And this is not because of the corruption, but mainly it is because of the administrative expenses. What so much administrative expenses are there in between, so that the real benefit for the rural area is only of 15 paisa. And he says, because he again quoted Rajiv Gandhi, and he says Rajiv Gandhi has mentioned in the Rajya Sabha very clearly that until as the grassroots workers will, or the leadership will not be developed, till that time we will not be able to develop the rural area. And then so that's why this Panchayati Raj concept was introduced. And he says still, although the government is doing, the present government is doing lots of development things very properly nowadays, but still lots of things to be done. And he says the infrastructure is still lacking. And that is why we have seen what has happened in this COVID time also. That was a rehearsal when people were avoiding initially about the rural. They have to, no other option, they came back to the rural area due to the COVID. And he says that still the self-government definition is not there. Whatsoever we are talking, but what is the real self-government, that is not been clear. He says the smart cities are being developed only in those cities where the municipal corporations are very powerful, where they are doing all the works very nicely. But rural area is required to be developed. He says a very good move by this present government of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, is the cluster development, which Ms. Vinita has also mentioned. So all these things, when Mr. Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran says, and he says that rural development 5-year plans are also is to be implemented properly. He said when our Honorable Prime Minister was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he has done very many experiments, and which are very, very fruitful to develop the rural areas. But still, lots of things to be done. So according to Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran, all the governments from the very beginning are trying to emphasize on the rural development. But still, in spite of all that, everybody's efforts, many things are still to be done. And then only we will be able to say that the rural, there is no difference between rural infrastructure, the rural development, or in the urban. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran, for giving your real grassroots picture to our viewers. I'm sure our viewers have a very fair idea how the government is doing what Ms. Vinita Hariharan has mentioned, and what is the reality in the villages Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran has mentioned. But now I would like to invite my next guest, and he is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He is also the principal advisor, Government of India Heritage Project. He was the former head of disaster management, Government of India, and Central Drought Relief Commissioner, Government of India. He was the Vice Chancellor of National Museum, University of Delhi. He has authored 40 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi, including novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. 4 books on Vastu and architecture and 1 book on housing received prestigious the Sharjah International Book Fair Award. Dr. Bose is a housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Nirmiti Kendra Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasures of Sri Padmavaswamy Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant, and our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi called him Man of Ideas. Welcome, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, on our show. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, Ms. Vinita Hariharan has given very, very detailed picture how the Planning Commission as well as the Niti Aayog and the present government is bent upon to see to it how the rural development be done. And she has made a very important point that I would like to highlight because you were not present at the time. She says the budget of the rural development is double than the urban expenditure. So she says the present government is very clear about that the rural development should be done. And what Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran has mentioned, I have already briefed, which you have already heard. Now, we would like to know from you, because you worked as a very senior bureaucrat, you have seen both the sides very closely, urban as well as rural, because you have been posted as a district collector, development officer, principal secretary to the chief minister, and many, many posts. And now also being this one-man expert commission on labor and migration, you have seen what happened during the COVID also. You have studied very closely. So you are an authority about, I must say, about the rural as well as the urban thing. So we would like to know your views on rural versus urban. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, please.
Thank you. Mr. Goel, the rural-urban divide is a matter of grave concern, not only in India, but for the whole globe. The whole world is fast urbanized. More than 50% of the population of the world are still in the urban areas, and 2/3 of the population of the world is soon going to be urbanized. So there is a big problem which is caused by the rural-urban divide, particularly in countries like India. Mr. Thompson, the British historian and scholar, he once asked Gandhiji, how came that the population of animals is dwindling in the forest? Gandhi said, it is dwindling in the forest, but the population of animals is increasing in our cities. Our cities have become monstrous cities. If we take, for instance, the problem of urbanization, how it has adversely affected the whole population of the world. Let us stop for a while and focus on Cairo, the capital of Egypt. In the city of Cairo, more than 1 lakh of people, that is 100,000 people, sleep in the city's cemeteries. The abode of the dead becomes home for the living. That is a problem which is faced by the growing urbanization in the world. And the problem of slums. In Sao Paulo, the slums have millions of people in that. Even there, you will see, to get an inch of land to survive, one has to grease the palm of the slum mafia. You see this distressing spectacle of distraught children fighting with animals, dogs, for a morsel. This is a situation which we have in Indian cities also, the Dharavi slums. So problems of urbanization are many, and the world has to grapple with the problem of urbanization and then the rural-urban divide. We know cities are the engines of growth. How about the rural areas? Why this migration of people from the rural to the urban areas? I'm sure that Vinita and Mr. Chandrasekhar would have certainly spelled it out, because the inherent weaknesses there, the lack of infrastructure, the focus on agriculture, the absence of means of livelihood, even social infrastructure is not developed there. There is lopsidedness in the planning priorities of the nation. By the 2011 census, there are 6 lakh villages in India. There are hardly 7,000 cities and towns. In fact, 69% of India's population, as per the 2011 census, were rural, and the rest, of course, urban. India is not rapidly urbanizing as the other countries. I think the projection is that India's urbanization may reach a 40% level, where the urbanization in the whole world will be 2/3, almost 67%. So we have a slant towards the rural areas. And our former president, Sri APJ Abdul Kalam, had given a talisman for this problem. He gave the idea of the Pura. Pura means providing urban facilities in rural areas. In states like Kerala, which is not urban, which is not rural, which is called urban, is a rural-urban continuum. There the situation is different, with a deep insight. Mr. Chandrasekhar has also analyzed it here. Now, what are the problems? I'll first go to the problems of urbanization, then come to the urban-rural divide. Exponential growth of population, that is one of the major issues which the cities are facing. It is exponential. See the facilities which are there in the cities, the infrastructure is breaking at the seams because of the pressure which is put on that. Then there is also poverty. Poverty, the Bible says that lack of love of money is the root of all evil. But this has been changed by Oscar Wilde, who said, lack of money is the root of all evil. Poverty is rampant in the urban areas. When people migrate from the rural to the urban areas in search of better pastures, at first they find it is all green and good there. But then the increasing population puts so much of demand on the facilities and jobs available in the cities. Unemployment is another problem. Hire and fire is a policy which is adopted everywhere in the cities by the industries. Now, in the background of the COVID, hire and fire has become the rule rather than the exception everywhere. That is because of the economic depression or this recession which has come in. This may be a temporary phenomenon. And the other problems of the city is increasing fast rate of crimes. Crimes are getting so sophisticated. All kinds of new crimes are coming. New crime syndicates are coming. The crime enforcement agencies, law and order enforcement agencies are finding it difficult to control crimes in the cities. And the growth of slums, which we have already touched upon. Cities have become a den of problems. More problems are there than it can solve. How can this be reversed? The remigration is the only way. You see, during the days of the COVID, the very, very sad spectacle of the migrant workers with headloads walking miles and miles to reach their villages. What does it show? This shows that somewhere along the planning process, we failed. You know, when India was at the nadir of economic stability during the time of Mr. Chandrasekhar, no fault of his, then came our Manmohan Singh regime. The new economic policy was ushered in: globalization, privatization, liberalization. We prospered. Infrastructure improved. The rich became richer. There was general prosperity everywhere. But we neglected one section. That is the labor. The labor which built up this country brick by brick, hospital by hospital, school by school, railway station by railway station, airport by airport, university by university. Somehow we neglected them. Otherwise, we would not have seen the sad spectacle of lakhs and lakhs of people who were from the cities in search of jobs going back to their villages. Now, Mr. Chandrasekhar has pointed it out here. Our only salvation lies in focusing on the villages. Even though I didn't hear, Vinita, I think from your summing up, that is what she also said. Yes, we should go back to our roots. We should go back to the villages. Gandhiji is right. India's soul is in her villages. This we have to decipher. This we have to discover. We have to reorient our planning process to this. We should provide facilities in the villages which are lacking there. Pura, of course, was neglected, but that's an excellent idea if it is implemented properly, providing urban facilities in rural areas. And number two, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which our Prime Minister has declared, be vocal for local. I think there is a turning back to the villages. India's villages are going to be the factories of the world. India is going to manufacture. From making in India, we are now making for the world. That is where the strength of the rural population is coming in the fore. Rural poverty is not because the rural population is entirely dependent on agriculture. You know, farming, any planning process in the country has to be farm-centric. We should provide all facilities for the farmers to thrive, to prosper. In fact, we have an ambitious target of doubling the farm income by 2022. The policies of the government are pointing to the fact that India will give accent to a farm-centric economy. Now you see, during the COVID days, if India is not starving, it is because our farmers could protect us. Our granaries are brimming with a buffer stock. Yes, farming is the one solace for this country. We have to give accent to farming, and from sowing to post-harvest management, I would say we should promote the agripreneurship in this country. From that is after sowing, reaping, harvesting. There is collection, grading, storage, transport, warehousing, marketing, processing, export. In all these areas, a new crop of entrepreneurs are coming. That is agripreneurs. Our accent should be on that. And the democratic institutions, I was very happy to listen, delighted to listen to Dr. Chandrasekhar, who said, yes, our administrative system should focus on giving more powers to the Panchayat Raj institutions. In India, we had a governance philosophy which relied upon Bahujan Hitaya, Bahujan Sukhaya. We had the primordial institutions of democracy, Sabha and Samiti, which were self-governing institutions. We should strengthen the people. You know, in those days of community development, when Jawaharlal Nehru and SK Dey said, instead of implementing government's programs with people's participation, we should implement people's programs with government's participation. Yes, that change is what is required. in the rural areas and the rural administration, rural governance. We should come to an age where we implement people's programs with the government's participation. I think governance is very important. Good governance is very important. And our third thing is that increase the means of livelihood. See, even in this world of digital economy, we find that every village has adequate plus points to evolve as a digital leaders. It is not necessary that we look for these facilities in the urban areas. Of course, in the financing sector, yes, in the financing sector, in the banking sector, and also services sector, yes, the cities still have an advantage. But this re-migration to the rural areas, which has become a fact of life in India, that has been seen as a positive step forward. There are one or two policy decisions which this government has taken, which leads to this. The quantum under the NREGA has been increased, so that now the rural people don't have to migrate to far-flung cities in search of jobs. They are assured of rural employment. I think a relook into the rural areas and a realization that India lives in our villages, that is what is required now. And now there are many issues which are to be addressed when we are thinking of bridging this rural-urban divide. Yes, poverty. Poverty is the most important thing. You know, the line between hunger and anger is a thin line. Our action should be on poverty alleviation. Of course, the policies of the government is pointing to the fact that India may become a hunger-free state in future. We all wish and pray that when India celebrates the Diamond Jubilee of its independence by 2022, India should be prepared. India should be able to declare this nation as a hunger-free nation. In that case, you will find the importance of the rural areas. In rural industries, through the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan and also through the Make for the Globe, Make for the World program, our rural industries are likely to investors. You see the young entrepreneurs here, the startups, Indian startups have already started inviting investment there. So therefore, in the area of agriculture, in industry, in animal husbandry, in fisheries, in all other sectors, India has got its future in the villages. What is required is a new understanding. We should rediscover our villages. We should rediscover the strength of our villages. Then rural development should become the most important throne of development, pillars of development in this country. I think the nation has started thinking in the right direction, moving in the right direction. I think if we focus on the rural areas, if we are confident about the tenacity, the sense of purpose, the dedication, the commitment of the rural areas, at one stage, we will be able to proudly declare, we don't want a fallen or a prostrate India. We want an India which is ready to live so that humanity may not die. That is the India which is there, enshrined in the village economy, enshrined in the village ethos. I think India should be proud of saying that we are not with the urbanizing world. We still hold our rural heritage and culture more important. But the entire world is moving towards urbanization. India may remain one of the few large countries which go back to rural economy. I think we may see the dawn of the rural economy ruling the world. Once they said, Britannia, Britannia, rules the waste, we will say about India's villages villages rule the world. I think that is the panorama and the kaleidoscopic image which I see in front of my eyes in this rural-urban divide issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, for giving your views. Paucity of time, I would like to just highlight one point which he has mentioned. He says, whatsoever we say about the rural and the urban, but the main thing is this COVID time, India is totally hunger-free because of the rural support, because of our farmers. And he says the government is going to plan in a very big way about this hunger-free India. And this is only possible if we will create more development and infrastructure in the rural area, because then only the India will be hunger-free country in the world, and then we can very well be the global leader of the country, of the world. So paucity of time, so I would not like to narrate, although he has mentioned many things: vocal for local, Atmanirbhar Bharat, many new schemes which has been introduced by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, is basically targeting for the rural development. And he says that we will develop the villages or the rural area, then everything will go, because the poverty is the main problem crisis, and that is why the development of the rural, which according to him is going on in a very well way. And he has mentioned about Mr. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Pura scheme. He says that is what is required, that bring all those things, development things of the rural, urban thing to the rural area. Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, for giving your views. Now, my question goes to you only first, and the question is very clearly, in one of our media conference, you mentioned that India has to develop world-class villages. And you mentioned that if we will have world-class villages where the world universities and the hospital, the infrastructures on those villages, where all small scale industries are working, export zones. So all those NRIs or those Pravasis who are away, they can you just say, can you just enlighten us, what is the meaning of world-class village? If we will do this thing in world-class village, do you think we will be able to solve maximum problem of this rural and urban divide? Dr. C.V. Anand, time is short, so please be brief. Thank you.
Figuratively, we use the term global village in a different sense. What I mean by global villages is a self-contained village where, as per the vision of APJ Abdul Kalam, Pura is available. The village can demonstrate to the whole world that development is possible within the village setup, not in the cities. That is what I have in mind, a fully developed village where all facilities for living are there and the highest quality of life will be demonstrated. That is my concept of a rural village. For want of time, I am not explaining the details here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bose. Now, my question goes to Ms. Vinita. Ms. Vinita, we all know that there is still, in spite of all the best efforts by the government, still there is lack of infrastructure, lack of facilities. Then my question to you is, why the same tax? Okay, for agriculture income, the exemption income tax is exempted, but there is no exemption for GST and all other things. Don't you think if the government will say, if a village, if you are selling anything in the village, this totally tax exempted, which is there in on major other countries like UK and USA, where they have developed, like what Dr. Bose mentioned about the global village, where they say if you are selling your products in that particular village, malls, that will be totally tax-free. And that's the advantage, is that the people from the cities are going to the village to purchase those branded products on a 50% or 75% discount. The rural area, the employment is increasing because they have to employ only the local people, and that's why the development can be done. Do you think India is having any such type of plan, or will it be good for the country? Ms. Vinita, please.
Yeah, like I mentioned in my lecture just now, that a lot of trust of the government is towards development of the rural areas. Beyond the tax-free regimes, we are also pumping a huge amount of subsidy to development of rural areas, which is in a way, upliftment of the rural people without giving direct tax exemption per se. And also, rural India is actually the bottom of the pyramid in terms of also the large base of market that it is. Rural consumer market is also huge for the big buyers and big sellers, anchor buyers like Big Bazaar and Reliance. They all have the rural market in focus. So they're already getting a huge amount of benefits in targeting the rural areas just by the sheer size of the demography, and also the purchasing power parity, which is also improved a lot in rural areas, like Dr. Bose just mentioned about the lot of schemes like the Manrega, etc., which has economically empowered the rural areas. And also we have seen a huge productivity in farmers' productivity also recently, like the agriculture income is what saved our economy through the COVID. So I think a lot of trust has already been given to rural areas.
ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच मिस विनीता। मेरा प्रश्न है डॉक्टर चंद्रशेखर प्राण साहब से। डॉक्टर प्राण, आज हम जब इतनी बातें कर रहे हैं, लेकिन एक चीज अभी भी है कि अभी भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, जो बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, जब आज ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन कोविड के टाइम में हो रही है, ये माना जा रहा है कि डिजिटल डिवाइड अभी भी बहुत है, मेडिकल फैसिलिटीज नहीं है, एजुकेशन, हालांकि गवर्नमेंट आपने जैसे बताया बहुत कोशिश कर रही है। आपको थोड़ा सा बहुत संक्षिप्त में बताइए, आप क्या एक सजेशन गवर्नमेंट को देना चाहेंगे कि क्या गवर्नमेंट करे जिससे कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी गांव में उसी तरह का हो जाए जैसा डॉक्टर सीवी आनंद बोस ने बताया कि हमारे डॉक्टर एपीजे अब्दुल कलाम चाहते थे कि अर्बन वाला जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर वहां हो जाए। एक कोई सा सजेशन संक्षिप्त में डॉक्टर प्राण प्लीज।
इस बारे में सरकार की कोशिशें बहुत हो रही हैं, लेकिन ये जितना सेंट्रलाइज हो रहा है उसको थोड़ा सा विकेंद्रित करना होगा। दो चीजें हैं ना, कि एकदम से वहां की नीड के हिसाब से, वहां की जरूरत के हिसाब से चीजें डेवलप हो। उसके लिए ये नहीं है कि एकदम जिस तरह की सुविधाएं हम शहरों में एकदम से बना रहे हैं वही सुविधाएं, सेम तरह की सुविधाएं वहां भी जाएं, लेकिन वहां की परिस्थितियों, वहां की आवश्यकताओं के मुताबिक हो। एक चीज। दूसरा ये है कि एक चीज और जो मैं विशेष रूप से
डॉक्टर प्राण, समय अभाव है, आपसे फिर कभी दोबारा जब रखेंगे तो आपसे पूरी डिटेल में लेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपने जो बताया। So today viewers, you have seen that rural and versus urban is not there. Basically, it's not rural versus urban. It is basically we all are one. Only thing is we have to change our mindset, and we should see that the rural will also get some of the facilities which urban is getting, and the government of the day is doing lots of work. Let's hope that time will definitely come when the rural and urban divide will not be there, and people would like to go to start their businesses, provide services in rural instead of only concentrated on urban. So thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, as well as it was shown live on YouTube and Facebook. And in our evening program, our endeavor is to bring to you the one guest who has achieved in a big way and who has become a role model or inspiration for the youth. And today my chief guest in my program Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goyal Ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. is Dr. Ramin Goyal, FRCS MS, Director, Center for Excellence in Pediatric and Metabolic Surgery, Mumbai, Specialists Board, member, Specialist Board, National Board of Examination, Government of India. So please tune in today for Kal Aaj Aur Kal Lal Goyal Ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose. Thank you very much, Ms. Vinita Hariharan. And thank you very much, Dr. Chandrasekhar Pran.